Alright, so I've tried recording this about, I think 5 times today. And I've spent maybe like 5 hours trying to go over it, and it keeps getting too long. And I'm just going to be talking about, so before I go into this, I'm going to list a few things. One, I'm going to be voicing my opinion on why servers should stop banning cannons and actually re-allow some cannons, right? And as to why I believe that, and a lot of reasons also will just be thrown out there throughout it. It's not going to be the most organized thing, as I don't ever go off of a script when I make any videos on my channel. I never really went off of a script. I never wrote off a script, I never wrote a script, none of that. So a lot of the things that I have done, right? It's just, you know, it's all messy, right? So, yeah. So basically, I made a few examples here of, I just made a few examples of, things that I can do over the whatever things you can do to prevent things. And the first thing is, a lot of what canning is in general is canning, at least factions canning, what it used to be, just, what can I do with a cannon that could help me breach a base faster when I'm raiding? Nowadays, it's just, how can I make it smaller so it's harder to be countered? And how can I make it so, how do I make my cannon small, fastest to print, so I can avoid being countered and I can still set up and start shooting? There's an issue there. That should not be the only thing people try to do. With the current meta, a lot of things are banned, right? So first thing I'm going to mention is 7 wide nuking and larger nukes. Making it so your nuke can only be about 5 wide is, how do I say this? I guess it's just the standard now. But if that web nuking, the combo bus nuking, if, I know who started doing that, if they never made that a public concept, if no one ever made that a public concept, if we went from efficient nuking straight to that rule, I guarantee you, I feel like web nuking would be banned if we jumped straight to it, because people would complain that it's too hard to be rated, or too easy to get rated by like a clean cut nuke. People would cry about it, right? That's pretty simple. Now, the 7 wide nukes and larger, there's one big issue that I see. They take so much more TNT, and there's already rules in servers that say you can't use more than X amount of TNT. Now for server owners out there, just make your rules say you can't use more than X amount of TNT a shot, and you also can't have more than X amount of dispensers. Make sure there's a rule on both, so that you can no longer, so that one, a full cannon, even if it's a multi-purpose cannon, you can't have, so many, like, different things, right? Even if you're, like, doing whatever. So if I have 4,000 dispensers, and I just toggle a bunch of things, why make it so difficult to figure out who's doing what? And what's done at what time? Because we don't want to have to let on the honor system. Everybody already cheats, which is already an issue. So we can't really trust people. And, we don't really want to deal with that. So make it so there's a rule on how much TNT is shot, as well as how many dispensers in a cannon. So, that's the thing. The next thing is, right, so now because of how much TNT a shot there is, I made a quick example here. Because now push nuking, I don't think that's ever going to be unbanned or ever allowed again, really, realistically. Unless, like, somebody does, like, a map like Kraken did last year for, unrestricted canning map, which was pretty awesome. I mean, that's pretty awesome in my opinion. Like, I really wish a server would do that again, because, like, people get creative and people, like, liked that map, and people actually really like that Kraken map. A lot of people actually went to it because everybody Canada there was like, oh my god, I'm so good, I can make, like, a push nuke. That's all people really probably even made at that map. I didn't really play it, though. But either way, like, people like that. Because they could do things that you're not normally doing, and that was kind of fun, right? If I look at this, now ignore the fact that this is only 5 widing, This is actually meant to 7 wide, and as well as I also did break it, and I think I only made it work for like the first few walls anyways. But if you look at these aren't nuking that far down. This was an 100 block nuke right there, right? Until I broke the obsidian durability config. This is on 5 obsidian durability. That's 1,000 TNT extra on your cannon just to do a 100 block nuke like that normally. And that also will not work in oceans. So keep in mind, you have to also have an extra nuke in your cannon just for this to be useful, right? Now, with the fact that you have to have an extra nuke on your cannon, you have to have 2 extra power modules for the way this works right here, right? You have to have 2 extra power modules. You also have to have an extra nuke hammer, an extra nuke as well. So that's already like so much TNT where it becomes just not viable. Very not viable. This is just not viable at all. It's just not really an option, because if you take TNT out of a lot of your powers, it comes down to, okay, well, sure, I can do what takes TNT out of my powers, but then you lose a lot of float, you lose a lot of range, all of that stuff. So there are a lot of differences and things that, hurt. Basically, it should be more of a concept you have to use. You can use it, but because of like a TNT limit, it's more of that's what should be causing, more of a risk for a reward. There should be a risk with a reward for cannons we use rather than only a risk, which is that risk of, will the staff know it's illegal or not? Will the staff see it? There's no reward. The reward is if I'm lucky enough to win the battle in support room, can I, use the cannon? Can I get the raid not rolled back? Can I even completely breach them, even if I'm cheating? That's still another thing. You're not guaranteed to breach people if you're using a 7-wide nuke. Because I hate to break it to you, but every 7-wide nuke is not overpowered. A lot of them actually clip a lot, and are very easy to go against. Another thing about 7-wide nukes, so a solution to that, right, is to increase obsidian durability, right? Increasing obsidian durability would make things a lot nicer, because if you even have it at 5, like, this is 1,000 TNT just to do 100 blocks, right? That's just 5 durability. Now, if we had it at 8, it'd be crazy. It would be interesting to see. But I think 5 or 6 should be what the servers should set their obsidian durability to. So, that's that's that. Next thing is, you can easily stop these 7-wide nukes or push nukes stuff by adding vertical cuts to your walls like this. Going down like this until you do whatever, and then you do it, and then you start again, and you start again, and you start again. Right? And then obviously have an extra, and start putting them, at a certain point, and keep having go down every about like 50 blocks, have like another one of them, right? No one's gonna really be like, oh my god, I can save myself 1 shot or 2 shots in a raid because I went through 1 hole. Like, that's not beneficial with the current meta or with the current playstyle. The playstyle is force raiding. Just accept that. You're never gonna... Bypassing a wall 1 time will not help you. Bypassing a singular wall will not help you in the long run if it's 1 or only up to 3 times. Unless that is helping you hit fresh, which will be almost... I honestly... Which means there also has to be no patches in the way. Which already means, like, that 1 little bypass is not going to help you hit fresh, because if you're already... if you're going to hit fresh anyways, it means there's no patches in that spot. It means you're forcing correctly. You can do things like this to prevent, so those 7-wide nukes, because the ways that those nukes work is the TNT directly comes into contact with the wall right here. And then once it gets down to a part where it's right here, it's whatever. Servers, already had a rule saying you can only have 1 nuke on a cannon. That's fine. That was fine. You don't need, like these people are adding, like, stupid rules. Like, you can't have more than this wide of a nuke. Like, 1 nuke on a cannon was enough, because that 7-wide right there, going into contact directly on a wall, that doesn't even work in oceans. To where they would have to be forced to find either another way around if they want to have this and only 1 nuke on a cannon, to where they have to find a way to still do a lot of damage to the wall, in oceans, stuff like that. You know? So, that's that. Next thing is worms, I guess. That's just gonna be what's next. It's whatever. I'm not gonna go into, like, horizontal nuking and stuff. That does kind of do a lot of things. Next thing is worms, right? With worms, we have, you have your long sand, and then not everybody even knows how to make a worm properly, and, like, not everybody even knows how to riv hybrid properly, which kind of sucks. So, this is what your worm. You'll have it like this. Every single shot, it comes to sand. It's not unpatchable.
You literally just break blocks.
It's all that is. Now, technically, you're not patching, I guess, so it's unpatchable cannon, because you don't have to do anything, right? It's whatever. It's like, boom, you just defended a worm. Just take a shovel and go to town. Make sure you just ocean Y1. Literally ocean Y1. Literally one singular time with an infinite water bucket, because those exist. Infinite water buckets exist. And ecos are always broken to where you can afford this. Right? So now, I mean, this is a huge option. Like, come on. Just go around one time and just ocean Y1, like... it's no work at all. You can use to stop a worm. Like that. Another thing is, like, extend your revs just to world border. It's not that hard. You won't get right shot, you won't get rev lefted, you won't get rev rightied if you extend your walls to world border. If you even just extend your revs, like, you're not going to get rev lefted or rev rightied. You're not. It's another thing. People are like, I don't want to get rev lefted. Well, like, dude, if your walls literally go like this, if your revs are like this, right? And then I will put this here. I will put this one to the side. If this is my revs, you can see a very big issue. There is a huge gap to where people can just go up here, stack sand right here, and then just destroy your base wall. It's just find a defense for something. You don't have to be a canner to see. They can just use. You don't have to be a canner to see. There is a gap right here. They can avoid my reverse layers. You don't have to be a cannoner. All you have to do is think, without phase cannoning, what is a way TNT can move around my walls to bypass stuff? Just think about TNT can move. You know how TNT can move like this. You know TNT move like this. You know TNT can do this. You know it can do that. You know it can do this. You know it can do all of those movements right there. You know it can. All you have to do is think, how can I avoid getting bypassed with ways TNT can move? And what ways? Are there gaps or openings or something like that? Now, in some spots where there are other bypasses where it comes to something where cannoners will see things, but I don't really even want to get into detail about that, because the amount of brain cells that I lack, that people lack sometimes, really just hurt me on the inside. Look right here. I just explained why it's super easy to see that there's an issue with this right here. TNT and sand can move between this, because TNT and sand are less than a block in size. They're 0.98 in size, basically, right? They can fit in between this gap. If there's a ladder, they cannot fit between that gap. If there's any block in this space, they cannot fit between this gap. Believe it or not. TNT and sand can fit through this gap and stack right here. It can go in between here. It could end here. Right? All of stuff like that. That's where people go so wrong. It is sad. So, basically, we have stuff like that. That's all you have to think of new defenses. Now, for people who want to know how to avoid getting bypassed, this is already public information. I'm going to let you on a little secret here. This has been a thing that has been known for years. right? Voila. I can't go up. I can't go under this and bypass them up that way. So border's right here. And I'm not even going to use like left shooting or anything because you just use wraps on this and whatever. It's fine. So I can't go under it. I can't just go in between any of the rev layers if I get into, because then I still have all these walls to go through. The issue should be very apparent right here. There is no way around these. I just said how to not get bypassed. Alright? The reason being, reverse hybrid rating is not meant to be bypassing revs. It was never meant to be. When it comes down to, you know, people having shit revs, yes. When people are bypassable, yes, that's what it will come down to. Alright? But god damn it. Jesus Christ. People are stupid sometimes. Like, how did somebody not think TNT can just go up here? You don't need to know what a cannon does. You just need to know that TNT can go how TNT moves. It moves. Boom. It goes in directions. You just need to see if a player can fit through it, then basically TNT can fit through it. If you, with your player, can find a way to go up, something without phase cannoning, if you can see a way that TNT can move to get into a base, that's how you will no longer get bypassed. Now, there are some things, like the 255.0 stuff, like that happened a year ago. Now, nobody saw that coming. Like, I don't understand how that got allowed. Like, somebody could basically pretty much make it was essentially a roof cannon. And say, like, you know what? I'm going to allow something that's meant to bypass the roof cannon patch. But then they won't allow somebody, like, you know, bypassing, like, a obvious base exploit, which has been bypassed before. Especially on the summer map. So, you know, that's that. I mean, with revs and stuff, like, I see so much weird shit. Another thing is wild floating. Once you find the cannon, the raid cannon somebody's using, if they're wild floating, like, literally, the whole game is about who can side counter better. So it doesn't even matter. Like, if you're just wild floating, like, who cares? It's like, sure, it's hard to find the cannon, but, like, you can see which way they're adjusting. And, I mean, you just run a straight line, and you run that way, and you run back that way. U-shape to figure out where somebody is. Figure out where somebody's cannon is. You just use like a simple U-shape. You literally go to where they're adjusting to, right? Because they're gonna have blocks of where they're adjusting to. You go in a straight line from where their shot is. You go in a straight line. Boom, you find their blocks. You go in a straight line again, or you go in a straight line. Now, smart cannoners will find a ways, you know. So it's like where your cannon will shoot like this, and then it will keep triangling, you know, like this, and going like that, and then like this, and then like that, and then like this, and like that. But, like, people call that double adjusting. Like, if you see this, the moment you see a block, you already have narrowed down where their cannon already is. So now that you have narrowed down to where the cannon is, the whole game is about who could side counter better. That's all it is. Who could side faster, who's faster setting up a cannon, who's faster getting up their box, all of that. Who's just better at sides. That's basically the whole game right now, right? So what's the point? Like, this doesn't matter. You already narrowed down where their cannon's gonna be. The moment you find their cannon, it doesn't matter. Right? It's the same as if you were getting packed on sides constantly. It's the same equivalent as that, right? And now because of that, if their cannon's all the way back here, now you have two sides allowed. You have this side and you have this side. And on smaller maps, like 5-man, 7-mans, even 10-mans, that means they have to go in both directions. They have to run their sides in both directions, right? And especially with Wilderness Fly, it is not hard to be able to find the cannon. Like that. So honestly, wild floating is another thing that should be allowed, right? Auto adjusts. They're not overpowered. Stop crying about auto adjusts. The whole point of force rating is to drill in a spot, right? I feel like auto adjusts, in my opinion, can be very bullshit. The only reason why people would use auto adjusts, I only think they should be allowed, but only up to an extent. I would say up to 2 spots in total. The reason why I say that, some people can be like, oh, what if you set up your auto adjust like this? You're gonna have it here, and you're also gonna have it up here because you have overstackers, right? So now these are your 2 adjust points, right? So you're gonna shoot here, and sometimes you're gonna shoot there, right? Sure. I mean, that's cool and all, but like, that's 2 spots. Now they can't drill. Right? No, obviously, that's annoying, but you limited it to 2 spots for a reason. Because the moment you have people catching and saying, hey, the moment you have people in your faction realizing what's going on, people are going to start figuring out they have to patch in XYZ areas, right? They're going to have to patch in XYZ areas. They have to patch in whatever areas, these 2 spots. And the person adjusting has to keep track of 2 spots. So now it's harder for the adjuster to use. So now it requires more skill to use an auto adjust theoretically. I mean, like, dude, honestly, like, it's so. A lot of these rules, it just saddens me. Just the amount of stuff that I could probably look at. Like, I could pull up. I'm gonna pause this real quickly, and I'm gonna pull up like Archon's rules, and I'll like give it like show like a few things wrong with them. All right, so right here, left shooting, right shooting. Right here, I showed you. You can do wraps, and you can easily figure out a way. All you have to do is find where TNT can move. Left shooting. In this case, I'm only up shooting and reverse shooting, right? I'm shooting upward to figure out where TNT can move to go in and be bypassable, right? So that's another thing. Yeah, I mean, you have left shooting and right shooting right there. That's easy. You have you have external barrels. Sure, external barrels. I mean, you could ban those, but I mean, like I said, like there's a reason why. 1, there's a TNT limit, and 2, like it's just about who can side counter better. For counters, obviously, you can do fuck all with the rules and do whatever, right? You can do fuck all with the counter, buffer counters, and side counters. I don't care about rules on that. Raiding cannons is a different story. It's you're not limiting, counters, because raiding, you're just taking out ways to raid effective strategies. You're just removing strategies. It's like if I'm studying for a test, and I want to say, okay, I want to make myself a little game to study off of, or I could just or I could just read the textbook 1,000 times. I'd rather do the game. It's like if teachers ban that game, now you have a more difficult strategy to complete the task that you're doing, which is to study and memorize for the test in your exam. In this case, obviously, I mean, this game's not about learning. It's more about what you can use, what a strategy can affect. The strategy you can use to effectively complete your task, to accomplish said task. Same concept here. We have can't counter a box from behind. I don't care about that. Like, it's just whatever. Can't bypass the Spencer limit. Set server. Yeah, doesn't care. That's fine. Those rules exist. Like, it's that like these huge cannons that like do a bunch of these cool things that like are so like extremely overpowered cannons don't exist. Like that's why the Spencer limits, TNT limits exist. It's all because of that. I mean, Archon's rules. I mean, I don't really see that many rules, honestly. Like right here. Oh, right here. Efusions, double adjust, mid-airs. I mean, on mid-airs, like I literally showed right here. You can defend this. Just don't be stupid. There's so much stuff you can do. Push, pull nukes, wall removers, horizontal nukes. Any cannon that shoots more than 5 by hole on standard water walls over stackers and autos are potentially to a certain extent. That's perfectly fine. Overstackers up to a certain extent, or auto jumps up to a certain extent, that's perfectly fine. I mean, if you allow things up to a certain extent, that is perfectly fine. And everybody also will test the cannon beforehand on a server before they would want to use it, right? So like, the thing I see is you could limit how much of a block nuke you can have. Or you can just up the obby durability and make it more difficult. But then it also like affects regular nukes. So obviously you can be like, okay, you can have like a 20 block nuke that's 7 wide. The rest of everything has to be, whatever. And you have to show the cannon beforehand. And we have to make sure. So if you get rid of any evidence of the cannon, and you fail to show and replicate what's happening on a test world, and like a test world or something, then it's a rollback, right? Stuff like that. Like, it's so simple for staff to be able to do. As long as they can replicate the exact thing they did. And just replicate it, right? You don't need to lie. You can, as long as you can follow the rules of cannons, like, it's just whatever. Yeah, I mean, besides that, okay, 360 counters, I don't care about that. Like, who cares? Honestly, like, I don't care about rules and counters. Like, that's not relevant. Raiding cannons is different. Raiding is so much different than countering. It's a completely different game at that point. But you know what? That's just my voice in cannoning. Like, just try to think of ways, or at least allow certain things. Like, wild floating is a great concept that people should be able to use. Right? That should be a concept people should be able to use. Another thing is, allow mid-airs, maybe. Like, this is a very, very simple defense right here. Like, this is not what you do. This isn't even something you should be doing in the first place. Because you can replicate this bypass here by using 2 auto backboards with a 1-stacker. And to be able to reverse hybrid. Right? So what you can do to go around this. Okay. Auto backboard. Overstack off of it. Another auto backboard. Now, you can have TNT here and here to just go up. See the issue here? You're no longer mid-airing. You're using backboards to be able to affect entities and move them again. Honestly. Like, man, dude. Just make defenses. In, like, mid-airs. Like, left shooting, right shooting. Just put wraps on your base. Like, you're not having extra boxes, like, on, like, these smaller servers, or, like, 5-man, 7-man. Like, you're not having an extra box for blazes or anything. Left shooting's not that important. Just add walls behind your counter as well. Do wraps. Pretty simple. I mean, you don't actually... No, it's not even that. People don't even put their counters on border. People put the counters in the corner of their base. So it's not even like you can just shoot past their counters and then that left shoot and bypass it. It's not even like you can do that. So, like, left and right shooting, it's whatever, right? So, that's really just my opinion. Like, I can go on for so much longer. But wild floating, left-right shooting, mid-airs. Even 7-wide nuking should be allowed up to a certain extent. And that's just really my opinion. Like, I know this came out to be, like, like what? Like this is 28 minutes long. And there's so much more reasons I can keep going over. But I really don't want to just keep trying to record this and do that. Like, I've tried doing this for at least an hour now. It just really saddens me to see certain things going on. But fuck, dude. Like, you're limiting people's creativity. You're not letting people take advantage of their own skill set by doing this. Like, people... Like, the whole game... Like, if you look at, like, any Cosmic test server... Right? Or, no, actually, no, Cosmic. Cosmic actually really heavily relies on your cannoner. If you are going to be able to actually, like, raid somebody on Cosmic, it heavily relies on your cannoner, honestly. Because, like, stuff like that. The whole game mode, you don't even need a cannoner to play the game anymore. You really don't. A lot of skems are public. It's fine. Public skems partially ruin the game. And also ruin cannoning a lot because people didn't want to learn cannoning to do whatever. This game creates 2 types of people. engineers and fucking lawyers. Holy shit. This game fucking sucks now. The game was fun, but Jesus Christ, the fucking servers actually suck.